If you think you're safe alone in the woods, you're wrong. I know that's not what you want to hear. We all want to believe that the world is mostly good, that the trees are just trees, and the silence is just silence. But the truth is, the woods are never truly empty. And being alone out there? That's just an illusion, one that can shatter in a heartbeat. I've spent years collecting stories, real stories, from real people about what happens when you step off the path and into the shadows. Some of them I can share, some of them I can't. There's one story, a fourth one, that I still can't bring myself to tell. Not yet. Maybe not ever. It's the kind of thing that changes you, even if you only hear it secondhand. But tonight, I'll give you 3 that haunt me. 3 stories that make me think twice before I ever set foot in the woods alone. You might be listening to this in your room, safe behind locked doors, maybe with the lights on. Maybe you're thinking, that could never happen to me. I used to think that, too. I used to love the woods the way the sunlight filters through the leaves. The hush that settles when you're far from the road. The sense that you're the only person for miles. But that's the trick, isn't it? The peace is just a mask. Underneath, there's something else. Something that watches. Something that waits. So, before we begin, ask yourself, do you really want to know what's out there? Because once you hear these stories, you can't unhear them. You'll start to notice things, the way the wind sounds like footsteps, the way the shadows move just a little too much. And you'll wonder, just like I do, if you're ever truly alone. Let's start with the first story. But remember, every story has a piece missing. I thought I was alone. I was wrong. It started like every other solo trip I'd taken, just me, my pack, and the endless hush of the pines. I'd been working too much, burning out on city noise and screens, and the woods always felt like a reset button. There's a spot I go to, a clearing about 6 miles off the main trail, where the trees open up and the sky feels impossibly wide. I'd been there before, and nothing bad had ever happened. I guess that's why I let my guard down. The first night was perfect. I set up camp, made a little fire, and watched the sun bleed out behind the trees. The air was cool and clean, and the only sounds were the wind and the needles and the distant call of an owl. I remember thinking, this is what peace feels like. I even laughed at myself for bringing the emergency radio. I didn't need it, or so I thought. I woke up around 2 a.m. to a sound I couldn't place. Not an animal, not the wind, something softer, like fabric brushing against bark. I sat up, heart thumping, and listened. Nothing, just the usual night sounds. I told myself it was a deer, maybe a raccoon, and went back to sleep. The next morning, I found my mug lying 10 feet from where I'd left it. I shrugged it off. Maybe I'd knocked it over. Maybe a squirrel had dragged it. But then I noticed something else. My boots, which I always leave just inside the tent flap, were outside, neatly side by side, pointing toward the woods. I stared at them for a long time, trying to remember if I'd moved them. I hadn't. I tried to shake it off. I made coffee, hiked down to the creek, and spent the day fishing. But the feeling of being watched crept in, slow and cold. Every time I looked up, I half expected to see someone standing between the trees. I told myself I was being paranoid. The woods play tricks on you, especially when you're alone. That night, I built my fire bigger. I sat with my back to a tree, facing the darkness, listening. The wind picked up, and the pines started to whisper. I heard it again, the soft, dragging sound, closer this time. I clicked on my flashlight and swept it across the trees. Nothing, just shadows. I tried the radio, just to hear another voice. My friend Mark was supposed to be on the other end, checking in every night. I pressed the button. Mark, you there? Over. Static. Then, faintly, yeah, I'm here. Everything good. I hesitated. Yeah, just weird noises. Probably nothing. He laughed. You always get jumpy out there. Remember, the pines have eyes. I forced a laugh. Yeah, I'll check in tomorrow. I turned off the radio and sat in the dark, the fire crackling low. That's when I heard it, a whisper, so close it felt like it was right behind me. You shouldn't be here. I spun around, shining my light into the trees. Nothing. My heart hammered in my chest. I told myself it was the wind, just the wind, but I knew it wasn't. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw shapes moving in the darkness. When dawn finally came, I packed up fast. I wanted to leave, but pride kept me there. I told myself I was being stupid, that I'd come all this way for peace and quiet, and I wasn't going to let a bad dream ruin it. I spent the day hiking, trying to shake the feeling. But the woods felt different closer, somehow, like the trees were leaning in. I kept catching glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye. Once, I saw a shape tall, thin, pale slip behind a tree. I ran after it, but there was nothing there. Just the endless, silent pines. That night, I didn't bother with a fire. I sat in my tent, clutching the radio, listening to the wind. I must have dozed off, because I woke to the sound of footsteps slow, deliberate, circling my tent. I held my breath, heart pounding, and listened. A voice, low and rasping, whispered, "You broke the rules." I fumbled for the radio, hands shaking. "Mark, are you there? Please answer." Static. Then, a voice not Mark's, but something else, something wrong came through. "You can't leave." I dropped the radio. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. I waited, barely breathing, until the first light of dawn crept through the tent. I unzipped the flap and stepped outside. The clearing was empty, but the ground was covered in footprints, bare, human, circling my tent again and again. My boots were gone. In their place was a single, perfect pine cone, balanced on a flat stone. I ran. I didn't pack up, didn't look back. I crashed through the underbrush, branches tearing at my clothes, lungs burning. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually I stumbled onto the main trail. I kept going until I saw another hiker, a real person, flesh and blood. I must have looked insane, wild-eyed and barefoot, but I didn't care. I never went back for my gear. I never told anyone the whole story, not even Mark. But sometimes, late at night, I hear that voice in my dreams. "You broke the rules." I still don't know what rules I broke. Maybe it was camping alone. Maybe it was ignoring the signs, the misplaced boots, the whispers, the feeling of being watched. Or maybe the rules are different for everyone, and you only find out what they are when it's too late. There are legends about those woods. People say the pines have eyes, that they watch and wait for someone to slip up. I used to laugh at that. Not anymore. I escaped, but I never found out what it wanted. The next story? It's even worse. Some say the woods call to us. But what if something else is calling? I know a lot of you listening right now have your own reasons for loving the woods. Maybe it's the quiet, the escape from the constant buzz of the world, the way the air feels different under the trees. There's a kind of peace out there you can't find anywhere else. It's easy to believe that the forest is a sanctuary, a place where you can finally hear yourself think. I get it, I used to feel the same way. But there's another side to that silence, isn't there? The longer you're out there, the more you realize how thin the line is between peace and isolation. The woods don't care about your problems, your deadlines, your phone battery. Out there, you're just another animal, and the rules are older than you can imagine. I've read your comments, your theories, the stories you've sent me. Some of you think there's something ancient in the trees, something that remembers every footstep, every trespass. Others say it's all in our heads, that the real danger is what we bring with us, our fears, our secrets, the things we're running from. Maybe it's both. Maybe the woods are a mirror, and what you see depends on what you're trying to escape. But then there are the stories that don't fit. The ones where people vanish without a trace, or come back changed, hollow-eyed and silent. The ones where the woods seem to reach out, to pull you in. I can't explain those. No one can. So what do you think? Is it just nature, or is there something else out there, waiting for us to let our guard down? Drop your theories in the comments. What do you think is out there, watching from the shadows? If you think that was bad, wait until you hear what happened to Sarah. Sarah's last message still haunts me. I've replayed it so many times, trying to convince myself there's a rational explanation, that it was just the wind, or a trick of the signal, or her nerves getting the best of her. But I know what I heard, and I know what I read in her journal, the one the rangers found zipped inside her pack, left neatly on the trail as if she'd just stepped away for a moment. I want to tell you her story, not just because she was my friend, but because I think it matters. Because maybe, if you hear it, you'll think twice before you go into the woods alone. Or maybe you'll understand why some people never come back. Sarah was the bravest person I knew. She'd hiked more trails than anyone in our group, always chasing the next summit, the next sunrise. She loved the wild, the challenge, the solitude. When she told me she was going to do the Ridgeback Loop solo, I didn't worry. Not really. She'd done it before, and she always checked in. Her first text came just after noon on Friday. "Sarah, made it to the trailhead. Weather's perfect. I'll send pics from the overlook." I sent back a thumbs up and a joke about not getting eaten by bears. She replied with a selfie grinning, wind in her hair, the forest stretching out behind her. She looked so alive. That night, she sent a voice note. "Sarah, voice, cheerful hey. Set up camp by the creek. It's gorgeous out here. No one else around. I'll call in the morning. Love you." I listened to it twice, smiling. She sounded happy, at peace. The next morning, her texts started to change. "Sarah, weird night. Thought I heard someone walking around my tent. Probably just deer. Didn't sleep much." I told her to be careful, to keep her bear spray close. She didn't reply for a few hours. When she did, it was short. "Sarah, found footprints by the creek. Not mine. Going to move camp." I tried to call, but it went straight to voicemail. That afternoon, she sent another voice note. This one was different. "Sarah, voice, shaky, I keep hearing. I don't know. Voices. It sounds like me, but it's not. I know how that sounds. I'm just tired. I'll hike out tomorrow." I felt a chill run through me. I texted her, told her to call me, to get somewhere safe. No answer. That night, I barely slept. I kept checking my phone, waiting for her to check in. Around 2 a.m., I got a voicemail. I'll never forget it. "Sarah, voice, whispering, terrified, it's outside. It's calling my name. It sounds like me. Please, if you get this, call someone. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to see what it is." There was a long pause, then a faint, distorted echo, her own voice. But wrong, stretched and hollow, calling from far away. "Sarah, come out, come out." I called the rangers. They started searching at first light. They found her camp, her pack, her journal. No sign of Sarah. I read her journal 100 times, looking for answers. The first entries were normal trail notes, sketches, little jokes. But then they changed. Journal, day 2, slept badly. Something's off. Heard footsteps, but when I looked, nothing was there. Found a pile of rocks by my tent. Don't remember seeing them before. Journal, day 3, voices in the night. Sounded like me, but not. Kept saying my name. Tried to ignore it. Moved camp. Still feels like I'm being watched. Journal, day 4, can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I hear myself calling from the trees. It's getting closer. I know it's not real. It can't be, but it sounds just like me. She drew a picture on that last page of figures standing among the trees, faceless, with a speech bubble. "Sarah, come out." Some of you might remember the echoer from my last video. It's an old legend around here, a thing that lives in the woods that can mimic any voice it hears. They say it calls to you, tries to lure you off the trail, deeper and deeper, until you're lost. Most people laugh it off. I used to too. But Sarah believed in facts, not fairy tales. She wouldn't have written those things if she wasn't truly scared. The rangers found one last thing. Her phone, wedged between 2 rocks, screen cracked but still working. There was a final recording, never sent. I listened to it once. That was enough. Sarah, voice, desperate, whispering, "If anyone finds this, don't follow the voice. It's not me. It's never me. Please tell them I tried. I tried to stay on the trail. I tried not to listen. But it's so loud now. It's everywhere. I can't tell what's real anymore. If you hear your own voice, run. Don't look back. There was a rustling sound, then a second voice, her voice, but twisted, echoing, layered over itself. Sarah, come out. It's safe. Come out. The recording ends with a scream. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a small, broken sound, like someone realizing they're already gone. Sarah was never found. No tracks, no blood, nothing but her pack and her words. The rangers said she probably got lost, that she panicked and wandered off. But I know Sarah. She wouldn't have left her journal, her phone, her pack. She wouldn't have left that message if she didn't believe it was real. Sometimes, late at night, I listen to her old voice notes, the ones from before. I try to remember her laugh, her stubbornness, the way she always found her way home. But then I hear that last message, and I wonder if she's still out there, somewhere in the trees, calling for help in a voice that isn't hers. I don't go into the woods alone anymore. Not after Sarah, not after the echoer. But the next story? The survivor wishes they hadn't made it out. If you've been part of this community for a while, you know there are rules for surviving the woods, unwritten, passed down in whispers, and sometimes in the comments section. Some of these rules sound like old campfire tales, but others, well, let's just say some rules are written in blood. I've collected your best advice, your warnings, your superstitions. Some of you swear by them. Some of you learned them the hard way. Here are a few that come up again and again. Rule number 1. Never leave the trail, no matter what you hear. Rule number 2. If you find something that doesn't belong, a shoe, a toy, a phone, don't touch it. Rule number 3. Never answer your own voice. If you hear yourself calling from the trees, keep walking. Rule number 4. If you see someone standing perfectly still, don't approach. Rule number 5. If you feel like you're being watched, you probably are. Rule number 6. Always leave an offering, something small, a coin or a piece of bread at the old stone marker. Rule number 7. If you get lost, don't run. The woods love panic. Some of these rules sound ridiculous until you hear the stories behind them. Like the hiker who vanished after following a voice that sounded just like his own. Or the camper who ignored the stone marker and woke up miles from his tent with no memory of how he got there. These aren't just stories, they're warnings, carved out of fear and experience. The illusion is that rules can keep you safe, that if you follow them, nothing bad will happen. But the truth is, the woods don't care about your rules. Sometimes the chaos wins. Sometimes the rules are just there to give you hope. But what if you break all the rules? That's what happened in our final story. I used to think the scariest thing about hiking alone was twisting an ankle or running out of water. I trusted the trails, the blazes on the trees, the little signs that told you where you were and how far you had to go. I liked the certainty of it, the way the world shrank down to a narrow path and a single goal. Keep moving forward and you'll get home. But the woods have rules of their own, and sometimes the trail you're following isn't the one you started on. I'd been planning the trip for months. The North Loop was supposed to be a challenge, but not impossible. 20 miles, well marked, with a few tough climbs and a couple of stream crossings. I'd done harder. I'd done longer. I told myself I was prepared for anything. I packed my map, my compass, my GPS, and enough food for 3 days. I even left my itinerary with my brother, just in case. I thought I was being careful. The first day was perfect. The trail was clear, the weather was cool, and the only sounds were the crunch of my boots and the distant calls of birds. I made good time, stopped for lunch by a little waterfall, and set up camp just before dusk. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have the place to myself. No crowds, no noise, just the steady rhythm of the woods. That night, I slept like a rock. When I woke up, the world felt different, quieter, somehow, like the air was holding its breath. I shrugged it off, packed up, and started hiking. The trail was easy to follow at first, the blazes bright and fresh. But after an hour, I realized I hadn't seen a marker in a while. The path seemed to narrow, the undergrowth closing in. I checked my GPS. The screen flickered, then went black. I tried not to panic. I pulled out my map and compass, but the trees all looked the same, and the sun was hidden behind thick clouds. I turned back the way I'd come, but the trail behind me was gone, just a tangle of roots and ferns. No sign anyone had ever walked there. I kept moving, telling myself I'd find the main trail again. But every time I thought I recognized a landmark, a fallen log. A mossy boulder, it looked different up close, wrong somehow. The woods felt deeper, older, the trees taller and closer together. The silence pressed in, broken only by the sound of my own breathing. After a while, I started calling out, "Hello? Anyone out there?" My voice sounded small, swallowed by the trees. I tried again, louder. "Help! I'm lost." The echo came back, warped and distant, as if the woods were mocking me. I checked my watch. It was noon, but the light was fading, the sky a dull, endless gray. I walked for what felt like hours, but the woods never changed. No birds, no animals, just the endless, shifting trees. That's when I saw the first person, a woman, maybe 30 feet ahead, standing perfectly still between two pines. She wore a red jacket, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Relief flooded me. I called out, "Hey, wait up." She didn't move. I hurried toward her, but when I reached the spot, she was gone. No footprints, no sign anyone had been there. I kept seeing people after that. A man in a blue hat, staring at the ground. A kid with a yellow backpack, walking away from me, always just out of reach. Every time I tried to catch up, they vanished. Sometimes I thought I heard voices, soft, urgent, calling my name. Once, I heard my own voice, whispering from behind a tree. "This way. Over here." I started to lose track of time. My watch stopped working, the hands frozen at 2:17. My phone was dead, even though I'd charged it the night before. I tried to retrace my steps, but the woods shifted around me, the trees rearranging themselves when I wasn't looking. I'd walk in a straight line and end up back where I started, the same fallen log, the same patch of ferns. I found a trail marker, once an old, faded blaze on a tree. I followed it, desperate, but the path twisted and doubled back, leading me in circles. I started to notice things that shouldn't have been there: a rusted bicycle half buried in the leaves, a child's shoe, a broken watch ticking in the dirt. I picked it up. The hand spun wildly, then stopped. I tried to keep calm, to remember the rules: stay put, make noise, wait for help. But the woods didn't care about rules. The silence grew heavier, pressing against my ears. I started talking to myself, just to hear another voice. "Okay, you're fine. You just got turned around. Someone will find you. Just keep moving." But the woods didn't want me to leave. I could feel it, a presence just out of sight, watching, waiting. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of something moving between the trees, a shadow, a flicker of white, a face that looked almost like mine. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I dreamed of endless trees, of running and never getting anywhere. I woke up to find my pack moved, my boots turned around, pointing deeper into the woods. On the third day at least, I think it was the third day, I heard voices again. Real voices calling my name. I stumbled toward them, shouting, "I'm here. Over here." I broke through the trees and found a group of hikers, their faces pale and drawn. They looked at me with hollow eyes. One of them stepped forward. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Her voice was flat, empty. "I'm lost," I said. "Can you help me?" She shook her head. "No one leaves." "Not really." I blinked and they were gone. Just trees, swaying in the wind. I started to wonder if I was dead, if I'd wandered into some kind of limbo. I thought about the stories I'd heard about people who vanished in the woods, about trails that led nowhere, about the thing that lived between the trees. Some say the woods keep a piece of you, that if you get lost, you never really come back. I don't remember how I got out. One minute I was stumbling through the undergrowth. The next I was standing on the edge of the parking lot, blinking in the sunlight. My car was there, covered in leaves. My phone buzzed to life, dozens of missed calls and texts from my brother. I looked back at the woods. The trees stood silent, innocent, as if nothing had happened. But I knew better. I could still feel the weight of the silence, the eyes watching from the shadows. I made it out, or did I? Sometimes, I still hear the woods calling. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see those faces, those impossible trails, and I wonder if I ever really left. Or if some part of me is still out there, wandering, lost, waiting for someone else to take my place. There are stories I can't tell. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The ones that never make it to the comments. The ones that get deleted before I can even read them. The ones that end with a silence so heavy it feels like the woods themselves are listening in. Tonight, you've heard 3 stories, 3 people who went into the trees alone and came back changed, or didn't come back at all. But for every story I share, there are a dozen more I can't. The woods keep their secrets, and sometimes they keep more than that. Maybe you're listening to this in your living room, lights on, doors locked, the world outside muffled and safe. Or maybe you're the kind of person who likes to walk at night, who feels the pull of the dark and the hush of the trees. Either way, I hope you remember, the comfort of home is only a thin wall against the things that wait just beyond the porch light. The woods don't care if you believe in them or not. They're patient. They're always there. If you've ever heard your name whispered from the shadows, if you've ever felt eyes on you when you thought you were alone, you're not alone. Drop your stories in the comments. Share your theories. Tell me what you think the woods are hiding or what they're looking for. And if you're new here, check out the last video. Some of you will remember the echoer from before. The community's theories are still keeping me up at night. Next time you're alone in the woods, listen closely. You might not be as alone as you think.